What is the original wound?
The original wound, in my opinion, it's something I kind of coined a long time ago when I started this work. And I said, it's so funny because every type of client I have goes back to that original time where we felt rejected, or we felt like something about our authentic selves, who we truly are, is not okay, is not safe, is not enough, isn't acceptable. And what's interesting is we don't raise our consciousness as children. So we just continue that pattern and start to abandon ourselves. So when I started really waking up to this, I was a teenager, and I had what I would call sort of a shame episode where something very little happened, and I had this huge emotional reaction, and I had remembered the original wound. I was actually a baby. And so I really base all my work on the time we first get that initial instinct of something's not okay about me. Because as children, we internalize it all, even though it's probably not about you at that age when I'm, an infant. We think it is because everything's about us. So the original wound is that first time. And a lot of times people play it out in their relationships. They don't really realize this is from an origin. So really, to heal those relationships and those life dynamics, I like to bring it back to that first time we got that crazy little idea. So in a nutshell, that's what I think.
Got it. Thank you. Yes, the original wound. So what are some ways that we could become aware that we have this, right? You had this epiphany, right? Recognizing it and like putting the pieces together, but how can people watching right now recognize that they have this original wound?
Bringing it back to, say, abandonment and betrayal, because that's our subject today, people who have an extreme reaction around rejection, or if you're in a relationship and there's almost this fear of enmeshment, like losing yourself in someone, but also abandonment, of being abandoned by someone. So you almost feel like this teeter-totter, like this push-pull dynamic. I see a lot. I see it in relationships with codependency or narcissistic people, with addiction, or many people who have this kind of wound come from an emotionally neglectful home or a dysfunctional family. You don't really know what's wrong, but you know you have these extreme emotions about things that maybe you shouldn't. So then you think you're highly sensitive, or you feel there's something wrong with you, or you feel like I just don't belong here. But truly, it's just a wound that you carry that says you're not enough, you're going to be abandoned, don't show them who you are. Or if you do show them who you are, it's going to be too much. So any of these types of things, then we fall into patterns of perfectionism or self-abandonment. And I mean, we could talk all day about what those symptoms are, but really what they are is any type of thought that something about me isn't enough or needs to be different.
Right. Right. And I'm sure most of us watching right now can relate to that.
I'm going to say 100% of people.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, on some level, there's a sliding scale, it could be extreme and it could be little, but we all have that message because of the society we live in that says it's right or wrong.
Right.
It's judgment.
So is it important to actually like pinpoint when this exact memory of the original wound? Is that an important thing for one's journey?
It's so funny. There are different ways of thinking about it. In my opinion, my deepest understandings have come from seeing that original time, because in a way, it really brings you back to that original innocence of who you truly are, that true self. I don't think it's necessary to start the healing journey. What I like to do is start people with right now. What is the issue in your life right now? What is the pattern that you see? Many people don't even know their patterns, but they know their emotion that comes up. So I like to help them trace their emotion and understand what are the emotional patterns. When does that feeling come up? When do you start to react in those certain coping mechanism ways? That will start to trace you back because your own intuition wants you to know. And so you'll start having visions. It happens with everyone. You start having visions when you go into the emotion of, oh my God, when I was 7, I had this same feeling. Oh my God, for me, mine happened immediately where I was sitting in the lunchroom junior year and something silly happened, but I had this overwhelming feeling and I saw myself breastfeeding. And I was like, oh my God, I felt this rejection then. And my mom I went home and asked her about it. And she said, that is the craziest thing ever. I lost my breast milk overnight because of the emotional stress she was going through. And you looked at me and you were never the same. I said, that's the attachment trauma. I got it. But that's the other thing is a lot of people with abandonment issues have an attachment trauma, some sort of trauma with their caretaker that made them think they don't love me, or made them think this is an insecure attachment. I don't know what to do to stay connected. We then carry it on and have attachment traumas with ourselves because we continue to disconnect from self.
Attachment trauma. Got it. Yeah, well, it makes a lot of sense. I've never heard anyone put it quite that way. So, right, those of us who are struggling with abandonment issues have some kind of attachment trauma.